Hi, welcome to Therapy JA. My name is Stephen Roper. I'm the host of Therapy JA. Each week we try and have discussions with mental health professionals, mental health advocates, and we discuss theories on mental health as well as removing the negative stigma of mental health to show that there's nothing wrong with speaking to a therapist and working through many different forms of therapy to get help. This week I have Verol Billett. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? I don't. Verol Billett is Billett or Billet?
You'll hear that you'll hear that as one of the pronunciation, yes. My
Therapist.
friend Craig would definitely correct you and say it's BA and not Billet because the origin is French.
Yeah, it's French. Yeah, like looking at it, I'm like, it's a French name. Yeah, well, Verol is a therapist and he has been working in therapy for some years. I really wanted to get some expertise, especially from a male therapist, just to understand, hear about his experience working with men and also just to hear about his insights on mental health within the Caribbean. So, Verol, thank you so much for doing this, brother.
You're most welcome, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here talking about mental health, talking about psychology. Love what I do, so it shouldn't be a big deal.
Okay, perfect. Could you tell me your story, like what made you get into the field of therapy?
All right, so I'm a psychologist, a clinical psychologist, and my journey started within my teenage years. Going through puberty, you're having a lot of questions, you're trying to figure life out and so on. And um, you're like, who do I turn to? You know, this whole roller coaster and stuff. I did art in high school and I found peace. I found I was able to experience and express myself through art. Big up Mr. Donald and Brown, SDGC, and St. George's College.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
sorry to say that, brother.
No apologies necessary. It was wonderful for me. Right? It was where I needed to be. And I enjoyed the whole process of creating. I was releasing a lot of emotional energy through the creation of my pieces. Many a times I didn't know what I was creating or how to explain it, but I just knew that it felt good creating, right? And I started investigating art therapy. My family was very much supportive. It's not a situation where you had to be this or that or whatever. It's make a choice. As long as it's healthy, we'll support you, right? And I realized art therapy was an interesting area, but it was more for graduate level. And I started to explore psychology a lot more and realize one, it will allow me a lot of flexibility. Two, I won't get bored, right? Because I'll be able to do so many different things, and I'll be able to enjoy it. I knew at that time I'll be able to enjoy it. So after high school, um, an art therapy course was being offered through Edna Manley, and that's where I met Leslie Ann Bell Nevis Elliott, and she we did something and I was okay, starting psychology fresh come September. And that's where my journey started. I entered into UA, did my bachelor's in psychology with a minor in criminology, because through sociology I learned about crime and violence and that sort of thing. And then I went straight into my master's in clinical psychology because there was no other option in terms of what else I wanted to do with my life. It was just psychology. And I wanted to be a person where I was able to help people, specifically teenagers, to just work through whatever it is to make healthier decisions, not to have regrets later on because of what I was seeing at the time.
Can I ask you, like, normally, who are more your patients? Do you have a lot of men that come to you for help, or is it females that normally come to you for counseling?
I see a lot of men in my practice, right? No, my earlier years, I was more focused on teenagers and children, but even then, I realized a lot of boys were being referred to me, a lot of um, youngsters who just needed that little space, needed someone to understand what was happening with them. And it just happened that way. And as a male in psychology in Jamaica, it's a female-dominated field. And so parents were seeking out male therapists, right? And so, okay, my son needs this help. My son is having behavioral challenges. Okay, I need a male therapist, especially with a lot of boys that who are growing up in single mother household. And it's not no knocking, but there's this need for a healthy male figure. And so as a male psychologist, it was, I guess, a good option. Also, I worked as a guidance counselor in a high school
Really?
as well. So that was my first job after completing, or towards the end of completion of my master's. And I worked there for about 2 years and 8 months, and then I went into private practice full time.
So what made you leave? Was it the money?
Was it that?
The money.
Was it a good offer? Like, what made you leave guidance?
No, as ultimately I wanted to work in private practice. I wanted the flexibility. And I felt like I wasn't able to do or utilize all my skill sets within the school space. And private practice would allow for that, because in the school space, it's mostly counseling, teaching, and a lot of paperwork, right? And working with parents and teachers and so on. But within private practice, I get to do a whole lot more. I remember I said when I was trying to find a career, flexibility and not getting bored were two of the top things.
Okay. Can I ask you, like,
What's the main trends you notice with boys that come to you? Is it like single parent household? Is it like feeling like communication issues, like feeling not understood, feeling not heard? I don't know if you've ever like sat back and realized or notice trends and stuff like that.
Well, the typical trends, a lot of teenage, or even with children, behavioral issues, emotional issues, not knowing how to express themselves emotionally, and even with boys, having a lot of anger. Where's the anger coming from? It's because I'm sad. It's because I feel like I'm not loved. I feel like I don't have that connection. I feel like I'm not being listened to, right? There are some academic challenges there as well. We have communication issues in terms of my parents and I we're on two different wavelengths, and we need somebody to help us to connect. Right. So parents are legit, I can't get through to this boy, I can't get through to my child, and I need you to help me. I need you to help me. What I make very clear from the very beginning, even to now, is that I do not work miracles. I do not fix people. Right. Whatever it is that we're doing, it's a collaborative effort, even with children. And so if changes are going to be made, everybody will have to have a hand in it. And then when we are looking into adulthood now, communication issues in relationships, feeling regrets about some choices that were made when they were younger or they didn't make, wishing that things were just different, trying to put down the mask that they've been wearing because of the expectations that they have to fulfill in life as men. Did I say emotional issues? Right. Learning how to feel, that's another thing. Pushing beyond the discomfort to be vulnerable, right? And finding strength. So the reality is a lot of men are walking around with these facades, and they just want a space where they can just put it down and get a little rest and just be human. Be human.
I have to say, man, I think there's such a huge understanding as a man in terms of being told that a woman will tell you, yo, she wants you to be expressive, she wants you to be vulnerable. You being vulnerable and then realizing that's not what she wants, because immediately she loses respect for you, and then realizing, oh man, I don't have that luxury of just being vulnerable with anybody. No, as a survival thing, because I still my female friends will always tell me, yo, you can be open and transparent with me, and I just say no, I can't. I'd rather save that for a professional. You know what I mean? And honestly, even with friendships, you kind of realize there's no space to trauma. Like, you don't want to trauma dump. Because I've really been through a lot. You know what I mean? And I have a lot of friends that go through a lot, but then you realize, man, this is for a professional. I think it's better to have it for a professional than to put that burden on your friends, trauma dump on your friends, because that in itself kind of, it just, you know what I mean? It's the safe thing to do is to go for a professional. Um, and I guess I would say it kind of sucks, but you just kind of say, boy, maybe when we get a wife, we can have that. You don't think so? You feel like if married men, do they still have to keep up that facade as well?
In terms of partnerships, I'm a big advocate for healthy communication and open honesty, right? But the reality is not some persons can't handle that open honesty. And so I think that some persons just fall in love with the idea of something versus what really is, because chances are you don't know what really is, right? And so when the seal is broken and there's a crack in the mask, what do I do with this? You know, I can't handle this. I didn't sign up for this. And so even with marriage, you know, you're supposed to grow together. In a part of growing is changing. And in changing, there are certain things that are going to come to light that the person probably even didn't know. We talk about trauma, right? In our Jamaican / Caribbean society, a lot of us have experienced significant traumatic events, but we have repressed it, we have suppressed it, or we act as if it didn't happen, though we may be aware of it. And these things will play out sooner or later in our interactions. And so when you say, you know, maybe when you have a wife, I'm like, it comes down to, do you really know who you're getting married to?
Whoa.
Do you really know who you're going to settle down with? This person that you have chosen, both male and female, you settle down with. Are they in it for the long run? Are they willing to accept me stripping away all these layers, stripping away all these expectations, and see me as an individual who is not perfect, who will not get everything right, who can't read your mind, right? But is trying. I don't think a lot of us have gone to that.
Okay, so when you've done couples counseling a lot, have you?
Have done?
Couples counseling.
Have you? Normally in situations, who do you normally say has the more expectations in the relationship, the man or the woman?
Both.
Okay,
But the thing is, women that tend to be more expressive with expectations.
Okay.
But when you dig deeper, the men also have their expectations. And so it's a tricky thing because these expectations, when they are not expressed, we don't know what we're doing. Right? And I think that has contributed to the dissatisfaction of many persons. Men may say, well, just keep these are just examples, just keep the home well, keep the children taken care of, let me know what is going on. As a man, I'm supposed to take care, I'm supposed to be the provider, right? I'm supposed to be the protector, right? But when you dig deeper, right, I want more. I want somebody who is my equal. I want someone who I can talk to about things. I want someone who is not going to hold things over me. Yeah, we mess up, but let us work to move on now. Let us actually practice forgiveness now.
Oh, finish your point before I jump in.
Well, where I was gonna go is the reality is the whole men needing to be, well, women are homemakers, men are protectors and providers. How can you really protect if you're not emotionally vulnerable? How can you provide? For me, provision is not just about giving a house, providing money and food, food and all of that stuff. But the space needs to be healthy. The space needs to be emotionally safe. And you can only create an emotionally safe space if you yourself, you're trying to, or you are emotionally safe.
All right, so when a guy says, yeah, here's what I wanted to say. 'Cause when a guy says, you know, I make a mistake and move on, a lot of the times the man, I've seen cases where the man kind of wrong, but his thing is to say, yo, move on. And I've seen women do that same thing too, but not in like relationships where women will make an error and women just avoid accountability like it is like I don't know woman afraid of accountability. Like let us be real. It's like in relationships a woman will never want to be like, you know, say I was wrong. I've never ever I don't think I think once my girl apologized when I was in a relationship, but most of the times women are really apologize or face accountability. And normally they will, when you bring up something, they'll be like, "Boy, that was so long ago." Even if it's like 2, 3 weeks ago, it's like, "Wow, that's just so long ago." You know what I mean? I've moved past from that, but there still isn't like a acknowledgement of, "Oh, I did this wrong. I should apologize." You get what I mean? You get what I'm saying?
I've heard of cases like that. I've also seen cases like that, but I've also seen on the other side where the men are avoiding accountability or they accept it, where they did something that created hurt or that led to the woman feeling hurt, right? But it's difficult for them to really acknowledge the depth of the hurt. And they're like, okay, sorry, let's move on. Which from a woman's perspective is not the easiest thing to do, especially when it's like betrayal. For example, infidelity.
Of course.
Mhm.
Worse. Yeah,
Mhm.
that was at the worst
Mhm.
consider.
So on both sides, being held accountable is a struggle I've seen, right? Um, but it's something that is absolutely necessary to do in order to make the necessary steps for improvement. And a part of being accountable is recognizing how much you've hurt the person or how much this really annoyed the person, whatever it is. Right? Whatever it is, but it's that acknowledgement is not, oh yeah, I was wrong and let's move on. No, let's not mention it ever again. It doesn't work like that. Right? And yes, that saying I'm sorry for many people, it's probably next to impossible. Sometimes it seems,
Yeah.
but it's very powerful. Very powerful just to
Oh,
say that you're sorry.
absolutely, I agree. All right, so I want to ask you,
I mean it.
but hold on, but you can apologize and people make the assertion that you didn't mean it, even when you did. I had an issue one time, right? I came to a meeting late and I apologized to the woman, and the woman was like, "That does not count as an apology. A true apology is a change in action." It's the first time I came late to the meeting, so there could be no opportunity to change in action because it was the first time. But she refused to acknowledge the apology because in her mind I did not mean it. You understand what I'm saying? So it's problematic to
I usually tell people that, especially in relationships, an apology begins with I'm sorry or I apologize, and it continues with consistent effort to not do it, the action again.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
But there are going to be times where you won't have the opportunity to show that you're making the changes. Right? But it's in many cases, I'm sorry, it's more for you still.
Mm.
Because I think like if you're willing to apologize, it means that you value something and you want to uphold something to go forward because you find it beneficial. Mhm.
Mm.
Right? And so even if the person will not see it again, it means then you realize that you need to do better and maybe somebody else will reap the benefits.
Well, I can imagine I said that to a girl. Baby, I apologize for myself because I'm acknowledging that I value you.
Because you're going to lose her and you value her.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so in terms of Jamaican culture, how do you think the stereotypes of manliness in terms of dealing with mental health is? Do you think there's good stereotypes or negative stereotypes? Do you think there's a move towards better approach to mental health, or do you feel like it's just talk?
I think we've made significant strides in the right direction where men seeking help generally is concerned, right? Where mental health is concerned, I find that persons are more open to the idea now. Granted, I think we have a long way to go. But from where we're coming from, because times past, this conversation would not be happening to be posted on the internet. You're crazy, right? And maybe a woman with another woman will be having a conversation, but two men having a conversation like this, I wouldn't have seen it happening back then. The stereotypes or the concept of who a man is in our culture, manly, strong, and I put that in quotes because this notion that strong means no weakness, no signs of weaknesses, no crying, no complaining, just take and go through. As a man, based on how things are constructed, you're only allowed, so it seems, to show happiness and anger.
Yeah. Yeah. It's no, it's a viable. That's a viable thing. Yeah.
Mhm. And why you need to ask for help? Don't ask for help, right? You're a man, you need to figure it out, right? Thrown out to the wolves and fight. Everything you have to fight, right? When you get a partner, make sure you do what you think you need to do to protect her and to stand strong and maintain the fact that you are wearing the pants in the relationship. Don't have her talk to you in any way. Make sure you can assert your dominance, that sort of thing. And the struggle for many persons, we spoke about vulnerability. And my response or retort to this whole concept of I can't be vulnerable is that there is so much strength in being vulnerable that you're missing out, right? And I mean that in the sense that this whole concept of being strong and don't show no weakness, you're doing just that. You're showing that you're weak because the things that are your triggers are easily identifiable and are used against you. Yeah? Right? Because persons know that they can't talk, if they talk to you in a certain way, you're going to respond in a particular way, which means if you find the right person, they'll do certain things to trigger you to get you in trouble. Right? Being taught that, well, I guess taught indirectly sometimes, you can only show happiness and anger. You have left out a whole host of emotions that you are already feeling, but it is stuffed down, it's not identified. And therefore that is stored up. And so you're just a walking volcano ready to erupt at any given moment. Then not knowing how to express yourself, you're shortchanging the relationships that you're longing for, or you so want to do better at doing, but you just don't know how. And then communication. It is that men are not the best communicators. I tend to agree with that because we tend to shut down when we're uncomfortable. So some of us will explode and get loud, but you're not really saying much. You're not really communicating. You're just talking at persons, right? And so I've seen where men are now open to therapy. Now, the concept of therapy or the idea people get of therapy is to come and sit down and talk to a stranger about your problems and what is happening, and they'll ask you, tell me, what is the line that people tend to use, which is somewhat annoying. Tell me, how do you feel about that? Right? And in Jamaica, and among a number of my colleagues, we have diverted or tried to make therapy more connect more with our people rather than what we see on North American and European television, right? Yes, when you enter a therapist's office, chances are you will see a very comfortable couch, right? You will see us in our chair. You will see us with, some of us may be writing, some of us don't write while we're with you, right? We have to do our records afterwards, right? But the conversation is just that, a conversation, right? With men and boys, a lot of times it takes on the tone, well, for me, it takes on this tone of reasoning. It's not just something that you for me, I can always talk for myself. It's not something I'm just pulling from a textbook or all the books and research and all of that. No, we're talking real life here. What's going on? My job is to reflect to you what is going on, help you make connections with the different patterns of behaviors and thought processes and how people react to you and how you react to other persons. The whole host of things that are the different dimensions to the human nature that you are of your existence, right? How things from the past impacting you now. Why do you respond to your boss that way? Why do you respond to your girlfriend or your wife that way when this is something that is really and truly mundane? Mm? The other thing too is that sometimes therapy is not a conversation, it's not a verbal conversation. I've had with boys, teenagers, we're shooting hoops and playing dominoes in session.
You play dominoes. Wait, you say you play dominoes with your?
Dominoes in session, for example. A child who has struggled making proper decisions because they're not thinking about consequences. Dominoes is very, very helpful. You're given a hand, the dominoes are shuffled, you randomly select your hand, you look at what you have. The aim is to win the game, right? You play the hand to the best of your ability in order to win that game. It therefore forces you mentally to think about what you have and how to use it to the best of your ability to reach your aim.
I never saw dominoes as that. That's why I'm kind of like, oh wow, that's a very interesting way of putting it.
You slow things down. As bigger men, they would have had more experience with dominoes. They know how to read the game. How do you read life? Same principle. You have to think about the different potentials and how this one action could lead to other things and not have you win at life. We play Jenga, we play darts, we would do different things. Sometimes we go outside.
At the therapy house, like you just take them outside.
We take them outside. I've taken kids outside. I say to the parents, more so children, boys. Say to the parents, okay, we're gonna go outside for today's session.
My thing is, because I noticed you said that, yeah, you create a safe space. And it's funny, I was talking to a pastor, and he said the same thing to me. He said that men hate counseling. They hate the idea of it, the word of it. So what he said the same thing as you, is he calls it a reasoning session. He must say, yo, come make me and you whole a reasoning. He'll take them to a bar. He would not take them, he wouldn't bring them in his church office. He would say, yo, make we go one way, go a bar, go one place, have a talk. And that to me is such a better way of doing it. You know what I mean? That's a very smart way of doing it, because a lot of times, especially I've done some therapy sessions and I feel so uncomfortable sitting outside, people seeing me, waiting to go into this guy's office, and I'm just like, man, you know what I mean? So hearing you affirm that to me is like, okay, good.
I've had situations where clients originally, they don't want to come because their parents drag them to come. So their kids, they have to go, right? Or the school says you can't come back to school or whatever without going to therapy or counseling first, right? Because of whatever issues that were happening at school. Or the wife or the girlfriend or the sweetheart gives out an ultimatum, say, okay, can't do this no more. Is that a therapy or I'm out? Right? And based on our interaction, they become comfortable and they're excited to come. Right? I have some young ones that I'm seeing. The moment I come out to the waiting room to greet them, they dash to my room. Right? They're comfortable. It's sometimes the one space that persons have to be their authentic self. no judgment, no, I want to say harshness, right? Well, and what I mean by that is in Jamaica, it's about not call you down, right? But if I have to be firm, I will be, because sometimes you're hesitating to make a particular decision or whatever, but based on the timeline that you've given me, it's running out, and you're procrastinating because of your anxiety.
Wait, could you give me an example of that? When you say timeline and stuff like that, what do you mean?
Could you repeat?
Well, you said like when someone that you give someone a timeline. What do you mean by that?
Meaning, depending on what's happening, right? They need to make a decision by a particular point, right? Right? Because if they don't, then it's going to have certain consequences. But they're delaying, they're procrastinating because they're fearful of making the wrong decision, for example. Right. And so I put that out there. I said, I observed that, time, they said that you needed to make this decision in 3 months' time, and now we're at the end of month 2 and you've not made a decision. What's going on? I realized that you're anxious. So let's talk about it. What is holding you back? What's feeding the anxiety?
How do you feel that media kind of puts out the going to therapy? How do you feel that the Jamaican media has covered it in terms of not covered it but promoted it? Do you feel like mental health has gotten promoted? Yeah, from music and stuff like that.
Um, I don't really see Jamaican, well, traditional media, not much. Jamaica, newspaper and printed media. When something happens and psychologists respond, you'll see it. I know some of us in the space try to put out content as much as possible, especially with social media, right? But when I'm meeting a new client, I usually ask, have you been in counseling or therapy before? Right? Most of the times it's no, right? Sometimes it's yes, and you'll hear the different stories. And then I said, well, tell me what you think, right? And I'll hear, well, I may get some medication, and I'll stop them right there. I say that I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm a psychologist. There's a difference. Psychologists, we do not prescribe medication.
Could you let me stop it? Could you repeat that, please? Make that difference, because I feel like a lot of us don't know that.
As psychologists, we do not, though my title has clinical in there, we do not give medication, right? Clinical and counseling therapists, we do not give medication. Psychiatrists, they are medical doctors. They can give medication, and if as a therapist I see that a client need medication, I think they may benefit from medication, and I make a referral to the psychiatrist who will do their consultation and take the necessary steps. But again, psychologists, we don't prescribe medication. We can say you may need, and so we do the referrals after.
How about cost of it? Because honestly, my therapist, me and him have an understanding, say not that bad, but it's still, boy, honestly, I can do my therapy once a month because I'm like, boy, that cost, yeah, I can handle to do this once a month. But how cheap? I don't want to say, I hate the word cheap, but how cost efficient is therapy?
All right. Well, before I answer that, and I will, all right. I also talk about the length of therapy. What you'll see on TV is that persons talking about being in therapy for 5, 10, 15 years, right? The reality is that a lot of persons are not in a therapist's office every single week for 10, 15 years, and 5, 10, 15 years, right? There's whatever it is that is going on, whatever it is that is happening. And I tend to phrase that question very carefully and not use what is wrong, because I just have a belief that nothing is ever wrong with us, but things are always happening. And so if we try to address what is happening and see how we can handle it, you're in a better position rather than thinking something with you. But this don't have to be there every single week for 5, 10, 15 years. It can be a 1-year process. It can be 6 months. It is dependent on whatever is happening. In terms of cost varies. psychologists, therapists will put their costs out what they think they're is suitable for them based on their training and skill sets and so on. Just like other medical professionals, right? And so you may find therapists who are charging 7,000, 8,000, some maybe 6. And I'm talking more in private practice. And it may go up to maybe for an individual session, it may go up to about $15,000, right? Maybe. That's a
Why they better solve my problems for $15,000?
that's a bandwidth that I tend to utilize generally. Because it all again it depends on skill sets. Because if it is that you're going in for a particular specialized skill, because a lot of us have different skills used for different purposes, right? And so that may have some influence on the cost. But the reality is, if you have insurance, then some psychologists, some therapists, you could claim back on your insurance
Really?
from your insurance. Yeah. You just have to ask and check it out.
Sagicor? You accept
Hmm?
Sagicor?
I can speak about Sagicor, Guardian Life, those two off the top of my head, but you have to check with your insurance plan. Right? Check in with your insurance provider and see what you have in you, what you're paying for monthly towards your insurance, and see if you can utilize that benefit and ask your therapist if you are if they have the forms for you to claim that.
So
As sorry, but at JAMSAT we're trying to advocate more for this, but it's an ongoing conversation, and that's the Jamaica Psychological Society. And I should also add, please, when you're going to see a psychologist, males, females, whomever, check to ensure that they are licensed with the Council of Professions Supplementary to Medicine. They are the licensing body for us at this point. And if they're not licensed, they're being supervised by someone who is licensed or registered, whatever you want. Right? Because that goes to show that they have the necessary qualifications to do what they're doing.
hold on. So some therapists don't have that? Really?
It's a long-standing that we've had. Some persons are practicing without being properly supervised or being supervised or being licensed, and we are strong in terms of ensuring that we do no further harm, right? And so we trust that if you have the qualifications and you're licensed, you know what you're doing. So, and you're abiding by the code of ethics and the standards.
Bro, I did not know this. Okay. Okay, so I have two sets of questions I want to ask. And the first one I want to ask is, I told you the story about the performance coach who I interviewed last, and he made some really good points. So I can't when you have the time, I'd say check out the interview because it's actually a really good interview. But what he was saying was that therapy works well for women because it's an emotional stuff. It gives them room to talk about their feelings, but for men can talk about their feelings, but they still have to get stuff done. And getting stuff done, because men are more performance based, they get a better sense of fulfillment, thus helping their mental health. How do you feel about that assessment?
I think, yeah, men are more action-based, performance-based, but it doesn't mean that they can't talk about their feelings. I think that from my experience, if they have the opportunity to, and they are taught how to, they can. I think what it is that by not talking about your feelings or not readily knowing how to access your feelings whenever you are forced to do so, like within therapy, it becomes overwhelming very quickly. And so that overload is very tiring, right? And so it dampens their productivity afterwards, right? Because then what do I do with all of this? So it gets very uncomfortable, right? And so that's why I take the approach, a more practical approach in terms of like the activities or take a tone of reasoning and that sort of thing, because it changes the dynamic from just focusing solely on emotion, and we're helping to create that balance in terms of as a man, this is what I'm used to, but this is what I kind of need to do to be a better person. Mhm. So I think emotions are a part of all of us as humans, and so it's something that we all need to investigate or deal with or learn how to manage in our own healthy way. Mhm. And the reality is talk therapy is not for everybody. Right? So if I've met someone, I'm like, okay, I don't think you're not opening up, you're not willing to talk, I'll refer to Leslie. Art therapy. Right? And refer to Leslie, art therapy. All right then. So you're not into talking. Are you a part of a gym? Make sure you go to the gym. Explore kickboxing, explore your hobbies, put that therapeutic element in your hobbies then. Right?
I think
And
that all
check in
that
with
you mentioning is so expensive to do, man.
and explore and check back with me once a month, or next month. Because if this is not your thing, then I can respect that. I'm not for everybody. But there are options out there. You can a few weeks ago, I remember making the recommendation. All right, your independence is important to you. I get that. I celebrate that because I think my job is to give you the tools necessary for you to operate on your own, because I'm not supposed to go with you for life. Yeah. How about to start, work with me, provide you with the tools so you can do your thing.
So wait, like you gave them like a book, like a coursework, and like, yo, do these things and come back to me type vibe?
It's more of what's happening, what can be done based on who the person is.
Yeah.
And I think these tools will be helpful to you. Put them in, put them to work, and let me know how they work out for you.
That's Yeah, that's good. I think there are periods, I think there are certain times where, even when I've done therapy, there are periods that I'm like, okay, I've done enough talk. I know what I have to do. Let me kind of focus on doing these things and then I'll come back. You know what I mean? Because you don't already know what it is. You're working to fix the problem, or you're working through the solution. Or sometimes emotionally, it's just like, I've worked through this and like I know what the emotions are, I've dealt with it, and I need to kind of just go through that. Do you feel like there are certain problems or certain trauma that has affected us, that, you know, sometimes people say their trauma defines them, and it starts to be how they deal with people? Do you feel like there's a certain time where where our trauma does no longer define us and we can just work through it without feeling like, oh, this is who we are, type of thing? Let's say someone where the father was incredibly abusive most of his life. He has issues in relationships. Because most of the times when we're dating, we date our parents. I don't know if you've ever heard that before.
I have.
Yeah. So you work through that issue and then you kind of realize, because of my daddy issues, I'm like this. But I'm going to have to stay like this and fix that. Or do you think that people can work through it, or that's who they are forever? But yeah, do you feel like your trauma can define you, or you can move past that?
I think you can move past it. Like, just quickly, we're talking about trauma. ACEs, right? I'm a part of a group working with Kai and some other persons doing a national studies on Jamaican national study on adverse childhood experiences within our country, right? And because based on what we're seeing in our practice, and not it's coming from the USA, but we're seeing it here in Jamaica, where the different types of abuse, neglect, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, being exposed to drugs and alcohol, persons who are domestic violence, all of that, we see play out, right? And to answer your question, can persons rise above it and not let it define them? Well, it's a part of your journey, right? So when you say not defined, it's not about ignoring or running away from, but the key is to be self-aware so you can ensure you are not repeating the same, right? So being so aware that you can recognize the patterns and say, hold on, I recognize this is how this affected me. So here what? I need to be intentional enough to not let this happen again. So I need to break the cycle, right? Some persons, truth be told, come to therapy, said to me, say, look, this is my history. And it just hit me the other day because of another failed relationship or whatever. And the cycle needs to be broken. This is what I have done. I just need a little more help to go a little further.
What? That's a very healthy patient, bro. So that's very healthy.
Very healthy. I've also had situations where even men, are like, all right, I recognize some kind of off because something happened too often now. So here what? Help me figure it out. Or my wife sent me because some must come because here what? The marriage, she's not happy and I sometimes feel miserable. So we need to do something about it. Right? Because I really love her, so I don't want to lose her. So what can happen? Right?
Man. Bro, you sound like you have some great patience. You have some very.
I don't want to be here, so I'm gonna just come because I have to. So I'm gonna know where this is just a waste of money. I'm not fazed by it. I've heard it so many times. And by the end of the talk or the reasoning, all right, then cool, no problem. Tell me about yourself. So what is she complaining about? What is her problem? Right? And by then, all right, so we can see each other a couple weeks from now. Come, I really appreciate this. Because there's a level of validation that happens, right? And that validation allows persons to be seen, not just the person in front of them, but seen beyond. That men really appreciate. They don't get it often. I've been seen time and time again on TikTok and just social media in general about men never ever been given a flower.
I mean, I wouldn't want a flower, honestly. That's not.
I take it metaphorically.
A hug is a flower for me. A hug, a blowjob is a flower for some guys. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be them. Sorry.
It is different people, but I take it metaphorically to mean that we have men out there who have never heard, great job, I appreciate you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take it for granted.
It's absolutely true though. Absolute facts.
ATMs.
Yeah. How do you deal with that, by the way? Like, I wanna talk about boundaries for men because I feel like as men we kind of, well, I've seen a lot of cases where a guy him don't want to be confrontational, and then other times he don't want to be a pushover. So, you saw the carnival video that went viral?
Which one?
All right, so there's a video. I'm gonna send it to you. There's a video because I'm gonna include this because it's a hot topic. There's a video of this girl. You on Twitter?
Yeah, I have Twitter.
All right, so there's a video of a girl so you know Kai Cenat, the streamer.
Yeah, I've seen him popping up from the other day with an Asian-looking guy as well.
Yes, yeah, they came for carnival, and honestly, yeah, how they dealt with carnival, I didn't like it. It wasn't cute. You know what I mean? There wasn't no. It was very. Some people would say it was kind of an insult to the culture in terms of how them just a dagga. It wasn't like a real whining, or But him whine on a girl, and it wasn't like them there in the dance, them there. When you're there at the tent in a carnival for rest. One girl come up to him and him whine pan her, and then she whine pan him friend Ray, the Asian guy. Then it turned out that the girl have a boyfriend that was there as well. And yo, the man them start say, yo brother, you make her wine out, two man wine out your girl, and him say, he gave her permission. It's carnival. But it went so viral because Kai Cenat is the most popular streamer in the world. Like #1. It went so viral that them broke up. He broke up with her 2 days ago, actually. And it looked like they were about him. I think him give her a ring, like he was going to propose to her and marry her. So the argument, the question I have in terms of boundary is that is a boundary. That is a we can go and dance. You know what I mean? That's a common boundary in relationships. We go and dance, you know what I mean? You know, wind up on a man. Or some people will be like, yo, you can wind up on a man, me can wind up on a girl, but at the end of the day, we go home together. You know what I mean? That's a very simple boundary. But what are your thoughts on that whole thing?
As individuals, first of all, we really need to understand ourselves so that we can put up our boundaries, right? But we also need to have boundaries for ourselves too, because oftentimes we come to it, we say we're not doing this, we're not doing that, but yes, still we'll go on. And in relation to other people, what you allow is what you will continue. If you're uncomfortable with something, you need to say it. But as you said, some men are not willing to, they don't want to be confrontational, they don't want to appear in a particular light, but they don't want to be a pushover. So they struggle with finding that balance. I think too, with how things are now, there is this concern about being seen as aggressive or as a womanizer or a woman beater, right? Or as a misogynist or what, all the different names. And I think, yes, as women, you need to have your boundaries. Don't put up with foolishness. That's my thing. But as men, there's a difference between aggression and being assertive. Your no is a no. If you're uncomfortable with something, you're uncomfortable with something, even in your relationships, right? And I'm a big advocate for healthy communication, right? And if someone is not willing to respect your boundaries, then the question is, can you handle this? Is it necessary to put yourself through this torture because you don't want to lose this person and then feel regret afterwards, or just walk away, lick your wounds, and live your life without regret and misery? Yes, I know it's easier said than done, right? Based on what you just shared, if it is that they had an understanding before, then fine. But if it is that they, broke up afterwards, is it really because of what she dancing with these guys, or there was something else? Who knows? Or is it because of the I guess what it sounds like ragging on social media?
Piece of the ragging kind of get to him still, You know what I mean? Because man them a rag pan you. You know what I mean? Saying it one time, but when all of the man them are pressure it kind of rough, but them not in a relationship, and at the end of the day, them is a good looking girl, so they must say whatever them. Huh?
It's their relationship.
Yeah.
What happens in one person's relationship may not go for anybody else. So, and we have to be careful that we're not, if those of us who are in relationships, we're not trying to copy somebody else's relationship.
But you don't think sometimes, okay, I'm gonna give you an example. Kind of like when people make that argument, it's our relationship. And normally in situations and that it's really, like Will and Jada, like that's their defense was, it's our relationship. When really it was just kind of like somebody having the best of both worlds, in that this man is like, you have the status of the relationship, but there's also a level of disrespect where clearly somebody loves the other person more. So they allow certain things.
Well, the thing is, I hesitate to comment because I don't know them personally. And so from the outside, all I can say is ultimately, people choose to be with persons, or most of the times, people choose to be with persons. And if this person has done things to you that has hurt you, you must know why you're staying with, despite that hurt. Apparently, there's something there that is holding you guys together, right? That chances are those on this side is missing. You're probably the only person seeing it, hence you're staying. Or if you leave for a reason.
Can I ask you what's the major like conflict in relationships as a counselor, couples counselor? What's the major cause of the conflict? Is it financial? Is it communication? What is it normally?
I think ultimately communication, people not being honest with each other,
Okay.
unvoiced expectations.
Yeah.
You said something I like, man, earlier. When you said that a lot of it is somebody putting the other person on a pedestal. You know what I mean? And having unrealistic expectations of the person. Because I feel like, man, that if you don't mind me saying, I said it, the performance coach brought it up as well in a different way. He was saying that pornography and social media has affected the expectations of men and women. Pornography for men, social media for women. In that pornography has given men this thing of, yo, you know, you think you're stimulated by all of these like paid sex workers doing all of these things, and you start to say, yo, that girl don't look too good. She don't look like this girl on my screen. Well, that's heavily edited, heavily affected by AI, and in terms of sex as well. And because men have such high, ridiculous expectations, it leads to like erectile dysfunction amongst young men, like barely even 21 and having erectile dysfunction because they're so desensitized. And in terms of with women see all of these girls flying out. They see all of these girls having these things. They don't know the underlying story of what is going on in that relationship. Or sometimes they get DMs from certain artists, certain big man, and because they get those men to DM them, not even really like date them, they think that they can get any type of guy. And so the regular guy they meet is not as important to them. So I was just saying in terms of the unrealistic expectations. You know what I mean? Could you expound more on that in terms of men, like the partner putting their partner on a pedestal type of thing?
Well, ultimately, we're working with comparisons here, and in cases like these, comparisons aren't the best thing to do, right? In terms of pornography, you're exposed to porn probably from your under 10. We live in a very, very expressive sexual culture where, you know, it's not, you don't have, unfortunately, you don't have to go too far to find porn. Right? And you're seeing certain things, you're as a young man, you're trying different things from an early age. So you're watching, you're seeing, you're watching, you're doing, you're watching, you're all of that stuff. And so there's this built-in or built-up expectation of what sex is supposed to be, this grand 2-hour, 3-hour event, right? Non-stop daggering and all that stuff, and the oral sex and the this and the that and whatnot. But then when it happens, when you finally start to have sex, or even as you grow up, you realize, I'm not finding anybody to do this, and so I'm left unfulfilled. So I have to go somewhere else, go purchase certain services, or I can't perform when I finally get the girl that I've been chatting up for 6 months, and then that takes a toll. I've said before, not many times, but a lot of times, I've seen where the reasons for men finally coming into therapy is because they go to the doctor because their penis has stopped working. The doctor is like, but there's nothing wrong. You need to see a therapist.
Yeah. Yeah. I think porn is 100%. That is something I wish. It's funny, one of my other brethren was saying it to me too. We're both just saying so porn is like, I would 100% recommend men to not watch porn. Just because of the damage it does long term. It's like
When you're very young, it messes up the mind.
yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, it definitely does. But in terms of social media for women, because I think a lot of men will argue that women have a lot of expectations.
Mhm.
That's like the thing.
You need to, with my young people, right? I usually talk about managing expectations in the sense that this whole notion that by the time you're 25, you're supposed to be working six figures and own two cars or whatever and a house. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that timeline because it not happen, right? I'll talk about one, do not compare yourself with your parents. Mhm. Wait, why? You will hear your parent, well, some of us will hear our parents talk about that by the time they were 23, 24, 25, they already had the house, they've been working, right? And doing this, they had a car and they already had you and your siblings, right? That could have worked back then. It can't work now. Unless you have certain other padding that you could fall on, right? But a lot of us, it can't happen. So that time, you can't take that timeline and make it work for you. It's not realistic in most cases. Right? And then I talk about definitely social media. Yes, you will see case in point. I've had a number of youngsters, particularly male, and then yes, some females coming in saying they want to do vlogging as a career. Of course, here and they want to be influencers, right? Right. So they're taking inspiration from those that they're seeing online. You also get the professional athletes and whatever, also from what they see online. Of course, the parents are not happy, right? Because it's not a real career, right? My response is not to shoot it down. My response is to get an understanding of where they're coming from and to explain to them that what you see is just the product of a lot of hard work behind the scenes. It's not easy money. And because to build a following takes a lot of work. And I'm sure you would know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's consistency, but it's many other things to really build it. Yeah.
Right. And so then we'll go into talking about, or at some point, they'll bring up examples of about how this 14-year-old can do it, how this 20-odd-year-old can do it. This person is flying to this place, that place, that place, right? This person is able to own a mansion by the time they're 22. This person is able to find their husband who is this big CEO of this company and living certain lives. And you'll hear all these things, all the different name brands and so on in the different apparels and jewelry and stuff. You'll hear it. Some will probably harp on it consistently. This is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want. So yes, there is some validity to that about women, but I also see it with men, well, boys as well, right? And so there needs to be this like grounding conversation, like I will never say it is impossible, right? I can't say that because I don't know what can happen. You can pull out something out of your creativity sleeve and put up this video and hey, that's your golden ticket. But at the same time, and I talk about probability versus possibility. Okay? And I make that distinction very clear.
Yo, I feel like yeah, I don't is the way how you say things is funny because I'm like, yo, is this shade? But it's not shade, but it's you're being honest. Man said probability versus possibility. It's possible, but is it probable?
Right? I talk about it. I tend to be very, very, very real, very plain, right?
Okay.
Because I don't know any other way.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a good point, though. So what I'm saying when you tell them say it's possible but not.
Some persons will continue arguing as teenagers tend to do sometimes, and some persons go in silence because then it goes into all right then. So it means that there is still a chance, but I have to still put out some effort in school. I probably don't put out effort in all subjects because of whatever reason, but at least I'll try and do a little better.
So like the man, so what would they want to like drop out of school and pursue it full time?
Realize that they have to do school, right? Because it's a law, and the parents are like, you don't have a choice, right?
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is, what what people don't realize, especially sometimes I think parents miss it, right? Is that there's a reason for every behavior we all engage in. There's a reason for it, whether we know it or not. And with children, right, they figure out whether they know it or not what they have control over. So you tell them that they have to go to school after they're saying, I don't see the purpose of school, I don't want to do school. Chances are they're not going to be putting out much effort in schoolwork because that's what they have control over. You can cuss and quarrel, teachers can put them in detentions from now till next year. If they don't feel the need to do it, they're going to exercise control over what they have. They could be the brightest of the brightest. If they're not like the teacher and how the teacher teaches, why should I do anything for you? Mhm. Right? Right? I will put out effort if I love football.
I mean, honestly, because I can relate to that too. Because when I was in high school, there were some courses I was like, yo, I don't even care about this subject, bro. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like that happened to all of us. Or just some subjects are doing like, yeah, why am I doing this?
I'm forced to go to a school I don't like. So here what? I'm not gonna do no work. And hopefully them kick me out.
I think I would say I think a lot of us, especially when you go to college, you realize, man, college was for some of us, college is seen as a scam. Like I think that's kind of what's happening now, where a lot of people are just realizing that they put themselves in this debt, and you know what I mean, put themselves under unnecessary stress, and they're not really getting a job, or they're not really surviving. They're on like a hamster wheel, or they're not really earning as much as they expected to earn.
That is so true. And while this is not a fix all, I think what needs to happen is that in preparing to go to university, it's not just selecting a course, right? Or a major or whatever. I think proper research needs to be done by the individual themselves, right? Not just go to earn the degree, but if you're going to university, if you're going to college, go with the aim of attaining an education, right? And I make that distinction because I feel like going for an education is much more wholesome, right? It's much more wholesome in that it's not just the academic component, but you're tapping into as many aspects of university life as possible, as is healthy for you, so that you are more rounded. Okay? So nobody's going to teach you how to network.
True.
Nobody's going to teach you how to be resourceful. Nobody's going to teach you how to do certain other things that are genuine skills that are applicable. So when you go with your degree and say, okay, I have a degree in accounting, for example. All right, we have 5, 6, 10, 15 applicants with a degree in accounting. When you go with a bachelor in psychology, what am I supposed to do with you? And so I've advised students, because I also teach as well at the tertiary level. I advise students, when you finish with your degree in psychology, don't necessarily market yourself as someone who has a bachelor's of science in psychology, you focus more on the skill sets that you have, which are very, very valuable.
Like what skill set would be like
As a psychology graduate, you learn about human behavior. You can learn about human behavior change, right? Behavioral patterns. You should have strong research skills. You're taught how to use a particular statistical software, which if you know how to use that and use it well, you can do well for yourself. There's a course called psychometrics, the development of tools to test and like questionnaires and surveys. If you can use that, learn that skill well, people will hire you to build and analyze instruments, questionnaires. So there are different skills that you can learn, but persons aren't embracing that side, and I think that is the way to go. And even create your own path. Let's stop mimic old paths, right? Because it's not. I don't know. I don't think it's working as well.
It isn't. It's a very saturated. I think the fields to make money are very saturated now, and you realize you have to do different things. Can I ask in terms of mental health, how does substance play a part in some mental health for the people you've met, like ganja, alcohol?
A lot. When you go into different spaces, you see persons who are affected by substances. So, for example, you'll see persons who have been diagnosed with schizophrenia or bipolar, and when you check the history, there is the use of substances, right? Marijuana, for example, the use of marijuana.
Why is it so prevalent in terms of like schizophrenia and stuff and bipolar? What is it about it that triggers that so much?
Well, one of the theories is that we don't necessarily know or not that very much aware of our full family histories. And these disorders tend to have a genetic component. And so with the introduction of substances, it can trigger the activation of whatever it is that is in the bloodline, the DNA, the genetics, and bring certain things to the fore. Some persons genuinely can't handle the impact of, or the impact that marijuana or any substance has on their being, right? And then sometimes, many a times, it's not just pure marijuana either. If there are different additives to it, right? And so the different chemicals in the body, it just doesn't work well. It just doesn't work well. Some persons say that in smoking like marijuana, it's very calming. It allows them to find some amount of peace. Well, I've heard that. I respect it. It's what you say to your experience. It's not mine. But at the same time, what works for one person doesn't work for another person. Doctors, therapists prescribe certain steps based on the individual in front of them. And so if something works for somebody, even if it's self-diagnosed, it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And so I know persons who are being diagnosed with different conditions, and while they're on meds, they still smoke the marijuana. They're making strides, while some persons, it keeps them back.
Yeah, I'm petrified of weed. I just remember having a friend in high school that went. I don't want to say he went crazy. He had an episode, is what I would say, and it was like fifth form. Never saw him again, and we're all was like, what happened? And then somebody gave him like a spliff tail, like a lizard tail in him weed or something that drove him off. And I just, bro, I'm afraid of it because I've seen too many people got off of it. And there's something wrong. I feel like there is something that is like, yeah, maybe it's a genetic disposition, but I feel like if it leads to so many like mental health issues for people, then there's something that you need to kind of study and be like, why is this causing that? You know what I mean? Like there must be an element that needs to be studied with it.
And now we have the whole vaping situation. I'm finding a lot of, not just males, because remember smoking was a male thing predominantly, right? Youngsters are vaping, saying, "Oh, it's better than smoke."
It's not healthy. It's the same, right?
No. The research, they're still pushing out research about vaping, and it's not looking good. Mhm. It's not looking good. Mhm. Right.
So your recommendation is for people to not smoke, or you would say to just
Mm. Ultimately, it's their decision. What I'd say is be informed and think about the probability and the possibility of the various impacts on you as an individual.
that's a very political statement right there, guys. That's DARE, dare right there. That's a very
I'm a smoker. I prefer not to be in environments where there's smoking or vaping or anything like that. I prefer people do not smoke personally, but at the same time, I respect your autonomy. Mhm. Mhm. I have to respect your autonomy. So if it is like, well, my clients who smoke, you can't smoke in my office. So
yeah, that wild. Smoking in a therapy office is wild, bro. That's like no. Man, them a go through only if you smoke weed in a therapy office, no that. What programs, initiatives do you feel like is necessary to improve mental health out here in the Caribbean?
well, constant conversations. For me, I don't think it needs to be a set initiative by a particular organization. I think all of us have a responsibility to be talking about mental health and be genuine with it. And I think the first step is when you ask for yourself, when you're asking people, "How are you?" Be open to any answer, right? Right? Be open to any answer because if you're genuine, then you're gonna want to hear the answer, right? And as a man, if you ask me how am I, I'm like, boy, I'm not feeling so well today. I actually feel sad because it's just been a crappy day, right? Like, which I've heard before. That's not how you're supposed to answer. You're supposed to say you're good so we can move on. And my response is, well, that's a you problem still.
Yo, bro, you throw shade very well. You throw shade very well, man. Okay.
But um uh but the reality is I think that's a good place to start though, Stephen, because if we're able to do that, people will be like, okay, it's all right. Maybe everybody won't do it. But if you don't, my thing is if you ask a question, you should be prepared for any response you're gonna get because you don't have control over people's response. That's just how I see it. Right? But we're just genuinely, as a people, uncomfortable with those uncomfortable emotions and situations. Right? I think that's a good place to start. The other thing, I said, just open conversations about how people are affected, the different struggles, and it's not about dumping your burdens onto others, but I think it should take a tone where, all right, take a tone of resiliency, right? How can we support you? How can we help? What do you need, right? Can we help? Right? Do you need us to help you find a professional who you can talk to? Right? And then before COVID, there was Safe Spaces by Jamhan. And then we have people in different pockets doing different things. Um, uh, Tamika Coley in December had a little, I'll call it a retreat for men
Really?
where it's just wellness. There was Dirty Foot Yoga Donovan who did a yoga session. There were some other persons talking about mental health from different perspectives. The indigenous perspective was one. I was there as a psychologist and all of that, where men and a number of men came just talk about what was happening with them and the different changes and struggles and seeking advice as to how to be better. Right? I'm a part of Dr. K.A.D. Morgan and Associates, and part of that we have Big up Kai. Um, we have Talent Journey Limited, which is a nonprofit organization focused on creating a trauma-informed society within the Caribbean. And so, as I said earlier, we're doing a national study about ACEs in the Caribbean, well, in Jamaica at this point. I'm probably thinking about the future for the Caribbean. And we want to see what things are like, male, female, in the different age ranges, right? To see how we can do even more to help our society, right? We're very much open talking about mental health. We love what we do, right? And then going into schools, going into wherever just to create that space to just talk to people and have people talk and express themselves and learn the skills. And sometimes the skills are not these no big sophisticated, not these are just simple skills. Once you apply it consistently, you'll see the improvements.
Wow. I'm very interested about that. Where was that? That's where did I have that?
It was somewhere in Haverdale. Someone's home. Someone was gracious enough to their backyard to just have it.
Tamika Cole, you say?
Hmm?
Tamika Cole?
I can look for her.
Yeah, I'll definitely DM her. I think I know who you're talking about. Cause I know she had at one point they used to have events and it was like a poetry type of session and it was like mental health pushing thing at one point. Back in the day when it was what's the name of that? There was a bar that we used to go to and they had like events at the place. It was right by across from the Texaco gas station on
Sunset Spring.
Mayor Brown's Corner.
yeah, I think it's where White Bones used to be, like across from where White Bones used to be. Yeah, they used to have a poetry stuff and it was a mental health thing. Alright, hold on. So I don't know if you watch it, we normally have a little segment called Ask a Therapist, where we'll ask you like a one ratchet question and you can give an answer if you want to answer. You want to do one?
Let's try.
Alright. Okay, so let's go. My husband and I have been married for 3 years, but he has never trusted me. I have asked him many times why he married me if he did not trust me. He said only foolish men put their trust in women. I found out from him that he got a young lady pregnant. She was 20 at the time. She cheated on her boyfriend with him. He knew that he was the one who got her pregnant because she told him. Her boyfriend was in a better position, so she told her boyfriend that the child is his. She convinced him that it was his child and the young man decided that he would marry her. So they planned a wedding and got married. It hurt my husband and he has not got over it. That is part of the reason why he said that only foolish men trust women. I have never gotten pregnant. My doctor told me that I don't need to worry. Everything is alright on my side. I told my husband that he should go and have himself checked out, but he told me that he would be wasting money. He said he knows that he can get a woman pregnant because he did it already. It is just that the woman didn't give him his child. He knows the man that his baby mother got married to. He said that if I don't get pregnant very soon, he's going to call the girl's husband and tell him that the child is his wife has is his and that she cheated on him. I love my husband, but he's very stubborn. When he met me, he wasn't holding a good job. But now he has a good one. Both of us put money together and save both of us put money together and save. Our rent is high, but we are coping. He's originally from St. Anne. His father has given him a piece of land. I told him to sell the land and use the money to purchase a house in the corporate area because I do not intend to live in rural Jamaica. It is a lovely piece of land, but I am a country girl. He has not agreed to sell the land as yet. I believe that when I get pregnant, he will do so. I would love to hear your advice. This is kind of okay.
There's so many parts to this. My advice and what exactly?
It's like a soap opera.
What exactly does she need advice on? Is it that's the part I'm not clear about.
She feels like I think she's trying to win the trust of the husband, but the thing prior about getting the girl pregnant and like
The thing is, what I'm hearing is that he's in pain. He's in emotional pain. He was so hurt by the decision of the girl before he got married, right? That he said that he got pregnant, that it probably was the ultimate betrayal for him. He maybe was looking so much towards being a father, and by her, he's saying he's convinced that this child is his, right? And by giving it to somebody else and having went on to marry somebody else, he just feels as if like you've taken something from me. How dare you? And I feel like I'm helpless. I can't do anything other than not trust anybody again, right? Because he may have had trusted this person completely, and because this person, the other guy had more resources than he did at the time, like I can't, from here on out, I need to keep my cards close to my chest because I can't trust anybody ever again. And then that puts a lot of strain on the relationship because she wants him to trust her. And um, if he doesn't want to make that decision to try and work through all of that, I'm not sure if it will happen. And then in terms of the pregnancy, I was surprised when with what he said and his refusal to go and get checked out. As men, we probably have to be near death's door to go to the doctor, right? Right? And so, and then to go check out if you can um impregnate somebody. Like, what do you mean as a man? What do you mean, McKeon? Right? And even for check it out means that I'm entertaining the possibility that I cannot. You're crazy. You're crazy. I'm not at fault here. Right? So, um, if she wants movement in a positive way, it's going to require him to be a little open to the idea of the fact that he was hurt and he's still hurting because of what was done or what he believes was done to him.
okay. I mean, to me, she like the minute him said them type of thing, that's a red flag. But she sound like she just like him, so she gotta stick by him.
Mm-hmm.
The church should play a more active role in terms of with mental health. Because do you feel like people like a pastoral counselor is as beneficial as a therapist, or what do you?
Definitely. If they're trained properly, right? Or I need to choose my words carefully here. I think the church can play a very helpful role in the whole mental health space because as a country with predominantly Christians, right, persons really do turn to the church for help. People turn to spirituality for help. Some persons ask for an element of spirituality or even use of the Bible in their therapeutic treatment, right? So there is space for it. But as I said, as long as persons are trained and can and find persons that they're comfortable with and can handle the different things and bring everything together, great. So in terms of, when I'm a big advocate for couples therapy, I'm a big advocate for premarital counseling. Big advocate, because as someone who's able to do that, you are, and even family, right? You're able to pull things out that persons who are thinking about getting married aren't thinking about, right? Because marriage is it's not all happiness and flowers and peace, right? It's a whirlwind. It can be a whirlwind. You're two individuals who are joining together, who will still have their individuality, right? But you're supposed to be working together, right? And so it is going to be important in your preparation to get married. Talk about everything. Yourself as a human being, your likes, your dislikes, your sexuality, your sexual preferences, your financial status, your financial plans, how you're going to combine things together, how you're going to run the household, dreams, goals, aspirations, children, child rearing practices, everything. How are you going to deal with the in-laws? Do you all get along? Can you sing Kumbaya around the Christmas table? Or you're like, you go to your family, I go to my family. Religious beliefs, all of these things needs to be put out there, needs to be challenged a little bit, right? To see how you communication style, conflict resolution skills, all of that is important. And as you get married and as the marriage continues, nothing is wrong with checking in, right? Because it's not going to be happy all the time. You're going to have conflicts, and you're going to be changing as you go through the marriage. The person you fell in love with, that you asked to marry or you say yes to, is not the person you're going to be with in 5 years' time. It's not the person 10 years' time, because things are going to change.
Can I ask you about?
Can I ask you about that? Where sometimes, okay, so as a couples counselor, do you feel like friendship matters more in dating than dating? Because a lot of times people put on their best selves when they're dating, and like it's like there's goes to a point where you feel like you're dating somebody completely new that's not who you met in the beginning.
Dating
Yeah, yeah.
who are you really? Who is the true self? How do you handle conflicts? What about this person annoys you? What do you do? Because I'm sure, yes, you love the person, but chances are there probably going to be a few quirks that, kind of hit at you. How do you communicate that? Right? And so I think that there needs to be a friendship, right, within the relationship. I think that's important. Because it's not going to be about sex all the time. You're not going to be having sex 24/7. You're not going to be having sex every day of the week for however long you're married. Okay.
Do you believe that men and women can be friends? I hate asking this question, but there's an element of
I think they can be.
Um,
I know that's not something that everybody believes in, but I think men and women can be friends.
but okay, out of your years of couples counseling, do you see that has the best relationship started from friendship, or like the couples that were exceptionally compatible? Did you see, was the baseline friendship, or
I think there's a genuine friendship there. But sometimes it started out as them just being friends. Sometimes from the very beginning it was there's an sexual attraction, and through the dating and time spent together, the friendship was built. But there is a foundation of friendship.
okay? Good man. I feel like I'd love to have another conversation with you, bro, because it's such a like yo. When it comes to relationships, you say such like good gems. You know what I mean? It's like certain things I pick up. I'm like, yo, that's a good, you know. Yeah, definitely. Um, okay. So all right. In terms of the Kai thing, though, like that thing, do you think that relationships suffer when you put it out in the public sphere too much? On social media specifically, do you feel like people shouldn't post on social media about their partner?
I think that not everything is meant for the public space. And if it is as a couple, you are like, okay, we're going to start a YouTube channel or whatever. I think you both need to have you both need to be secure, or have a certain element of security within yourselves and within each other as a couple, and have open and honest conversation about what both of you are comfortable with in putting it out there, right? Knowing full well that not everybody will be receptive of your content anyways, right? And focus on what matters, and making sure that you guys can turn to each other and work with each other, right? And I think that is how you make it work, right? Versus putting everything out there. Because again, people will capitalize on what they see. And if you're not secure enough, then they may try to make headway in, right? If you're not secure enough and let's say your partner is getting more love or likes than you are, that can breed jealousy. Then the conversation is who made this page, who is bringing in more likes and comments or traffic or whatever, and all of that stuff. You don't need that as a couple.
Okay. Man, yeah. I think I have enough questions. How can people get in contact with you? Please tell me you have a social media page, your Instagram, your TikTok, your Twitter, or is it like your personal thing, so you don't want people DM you for help?
I have an Instagram page, which I really need to do better at, to be honest. I really need to do better at it, but trying. My mental vitamins, you can find me on Instagram. Mhm.
Okay, got you. What's the next one?
That's it.
That's it? Okay.
I mean,
How about
I'm on Twitter, but I don't really post on Twitter, to be honest.
I know TikTok.
I don't post on TikTok. I just watch just for entertainment.
TikTok is really entertaining. I love it.
You'll find me on Kai KD KDM and Associates.
I'm friends with that page. I think she follows me. I've referred a lot of people have messaged me for like the page and messaged me about like finding therapy and affordable therapy, and I've been sending them to KD and Associates because I think she was telling me you guys have like a $3,000 package, which is like a student therapist or something like that. No, you don't have like a student therapist that will counsel under supervision.
Yes, I think so. Yes, yes. You see, the thing is, there's this thing that I don't like about who has it worse, men or women. I think that's bullshit. I think it's just pitting us against each other, right? I think men have their challenges, women have their challenges. Men contribute to some of women's challenges, women contribute to some of men's challenges. But ultimately, we're all human beings and we all go through something, right? And so everybody needs to be respected in that regard and be given the energy. We're not going to agree on everything. We're not meant to agree on everything, right? And therefore, if we have just basic respect, we say, all right, I hear you, I don't agree, but let's move on. You're not my cup of tea? All right, cool.
Yeah. Some of the comments is very negative and toxic, but it gets views. But I don't want to do everything just for views. And as I say, I really enjoy the therapy type stuff because I feel like there's a lack of it out here. There's a lack of it. Most of it is Christian, and I feel like Christian content is good, but Caribbean Christianity, my God, man, it's Caribbean Christianity. I would say is very passionate. Is what I was intense. Intense is a better word. I just remember I had an argument with a Christian one time saying I should focus on that Christ is the source of all healing. So if I'm doing therapy content, I should do Christ-focused therapy content, which was crazy to me. I was like, that's no, not at all. So there's not that much good YouTube content in terms of mental health and healthy conversations that I say out here. Some of them are good. I like Stacey. You know Stacey Ann Smith?
I've met her.
Yeah, she has a good YouTube page. It's Christian and counts the stuff as well. But I like her. She's good.
Yeah. In terms of relationships, if you can consider Sonia Winter, Tea House Therapy.
Yeah, I've seen her stuff. Yeah, actually, I have her on the. Did you see the? Did I send you the website?
It's in your email.
No, man. Therapy JA, not the Abundant Media one. TherapyJA.com is the website I built, which is how I started. Yeah, it's a start. That's how I started the YouTube stuff. So I heard about Sonia Tea House Therapy because I added it on the website. So basically, what the website is, it's a resource. So it has all of the therapists, most of the therapists on the island. There was like a review system I implemented. But the difference with this one is that you the therapist would have to log on and put your information, how people can contact you, and there's like a review system on it as well. So yeah, so you seen it? Yeah. So that's the yeah. All right, bro, man. Thanks a lot. I would definitely do another one of these because yeah, you have some really good points, man. Hopefully, if you have time and you're free up, you know what I mean. Yeah, you post therapy content on My Mental Vitamins?
I haven't posted in a while. Okay? And persons have been asking me to do something about that. And
You should, man, you should.
it's in the I need to. So I shall get back to it.
Alright, bro. Alright, man. Hey, thank you so much for this, bro. So once again, guys, follow My Mental Vitamins on Instagram. Is it My Mental Vitamins on Twitter as well?
No Twitter.
Okay.
There is a Twitter page, but there I don't post. So
Okay. Follow My Mental Vitamins on Instagram. You know what I mean? Thank you so much for doing Verol.